It seriously doesn't get any better than this. Do you want to learn how to turn this raw beef shank into this perfectly smoked beefy goodness? Now you know it's cooked perfectly if the bone comes out nice and clean. Now if you're not smoking a beef shank this weekend, now that should be legal. Let's get into it. Today we're smoking a beef shank. Cooking time for this recipe is 7 hours. Or for those of you who love to follow my beer timer, you're looking at a 14 beer cook. Cheers. To make this recipe, we're going to need a beef shank. Now I initially dropped in to see Mick out at Gippsland Premium Meat for some shank pieces, because I was originally going to make osso buco. But Mick said he had some full shanks in stock and I was sold. Whole beef shins, shanks, caveman lollipops, or even Thor's hammer are names given to this cut of beef. No matter what you call it, it's going to be tasty. So I have this 5 Founders natural Australian beef. Apparently Australia's first carbon neutral premium beef, if that tickles your fancy. Now to prep, we need to remove it from its packaging. Now, using a sharp knife, like my hammer stool boning knife, we just want to remove all of the silver skin, or as much as we can, because this will not break down or render out during the cook. And how aggressive you go on this trim is purely a personal preference. I just personally like to remove the majority of this silver skin, exposing the meat underneath so we can get our rub onto it. And be left with something like this. The term Thor's hammer became popular online for a beef shin that had been Frenched, just like you can with a lamb shank. The fact is, all this does is expose a little bit of the bone before you start cooking it. But after a long process of smoking the beef shin, part of the bone's exposed anyway, so don't French it and don't waste any meat. Now everyone that gives this video a thumbs up will receive a free puppy. Conditions do apply. It's time to season the beef shank. And this is a part of the cook that you can add your own style to it, either by making your own rubs or using any commercial one available that you like to use. And today I'm using 2 rubs that I bought, and I just love using them because of the flavors. So single digit glove up time. First up is 4 Monkeys Home Base. This just gives that beefy flavor a super boost. And as always, I just like to apply my rub from about 30 centimeters above the meat. This just ensures we get even coverage, making sure to get every end. Keep flipping it over and don't forget the ends. And then I'll tag team that with 4 Monkeys Beef Rub. And this is just going to help us create some great texture in our bark that we want to create while smoking this beef shin. Plus it's going to add some great depth of flavour to that beefy flavour. And just like the home base, you want to go right around to make sure everything's got some rub on it. And it is a massive piece of beef, so don't go light on the rub, pack it in there. And don't forget the ends. And once it's all covered, we can put it aside while we get the barbecue ready. If everyone watching this video shared it with a friend, my channel would explode and I could finally afford to cook a giraffe. Please read the fine print on cooking a giraffe in the description. Today I'm using a 57 centimeter Weber kettle and I'm going to be utilising the snake method. Why? Because I want to be smoking at temps of 135 degrees Celsius today. And how I'll do that is by carefully stacking briquettes in the Weber kettle to form the snake. And taking your time to make it as neat as possible, therefore you'll get a more even burn. Then add 12 briquettes to a chimney starter, light up a fire lighter, and add the chimney on top. And once they are fully alight, we're going to add these to one end of the snake to act like a fuse. Then I'll add a few chunks of cherry wood around the snake, and I'm going to leave a gap of 50 mil in between each piece, as wood burns hotter and quicker than charcoal does, so don't let them touch. Otherwise, your snake is gonna burn around a lot quicker and you're gonna get huge temp spikes. Now you will still see small temp spikes as the charcoal hits each piece of wood. But that's normal and you expect that. There's nothing to worry about. It will settle down. Now don't forget to add a drip pan. This shin is gonna ooze more juice than your secret sock. Smut! I'll put the grill back in place. Now putting the lid back on, making sure all the vents are wide open. And that lid vent is on the opposite side to our lit fuel. And once the temp gets around 50 degrees Celsius off that target temp of 135 degrees Celsius, close down that bowl vent to roughly halfway. The temp will keep climbing, but it should settle down around our target temp. And for your Weber, you may just have to adjust it a bit. But once you've got it stable and it's been stable for 30 minutes, you can put your food in. If you don't own a Weber kettle, you can still replicate this cook in any hooded barbecue by following the times and temps. The Weber's at temp and it has been stable for 30 minutes now. So we can place the beef shank in the middle of the charcoal grate above that drip pan. Put the lid back on, making sure that lid vent is on the opposite side of our fuel. That way you're drawing the heat and the smoke over that beef shank. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you are missing out. Every new subscriber receives a show bag. Please see the description for conditions on getting your show bag. I want to promote smoke towards the meat. And how do we do that? Can I actually talk to smoke? No, I can't. But smoke is attracted to wet surfaces. Some might even say anything that is moist. Smut! So around every 45 minutes, lift the lid, spin the shin 180 degrees and give it a spritz. Then slamming the lid down purely so your neighbours can hear you, asserting your dominance. And we're spinning that beef shin purely so both sides are subjected to the same amount of heat. And this will allow it to cook more evenly. And we'll just repeat the process until we're happy with the colour. Lift the lid, spin the beef, give it a spritz. Lid back on. Lift the lid, spin the meat, give it a spritz, and put the lid back on. My spritzing formula is a complex mixture of 3 equal parts. That is 1 part beef stock to 1 part beef stock to 1 part beef stock. We are 3 hours and 45 minutes into the cook, and look at the colour of that bark. The internal temp's currently at 66 degrees Celsius, but that's not our issue right now. That 4 Monkeys beef rub never disappoints, and teamed up with that cherry wood, we get this deep, rich mahogany colour. Place the beef shank on a couple of layers of flexible metal, give another spritz of the beef stock, and grab the bone marrow fluid and drizzle that all over it. Add 100 grams of unsalted butter, and now wrap that up nice and tight. You can now pop that back into the Weber. We can also add a thermometer into it and set that for 96 degrees Celsius and pop the lid back on. And I'm going to open the bowl vent. I'm going to nudge the temp up to 150 degrees Celsius. That beef shin is fully protected, wrapped up in 2 layers of flexible metal. So it'll be fine. And once it reaches 96 degrees Celsius, we can start testing it for tenderness by probing it. The internal temp has hit 96 degrees Celsius. So you know what that means? We can drag the beef shin out and check it for tenderness. So you just want to open it up, and remember there's going to be a lot of steam, so keep your face away from it. That is done. Look at that, no resistance whatsoever. So the bone has pierced the flexible metal, so I'm transferring it into this foil tray and just putting the rest of the juices in there with it. And I'll just cover that with some flexible metal. Now just wrap that up in a towel and place it into an esky. And we're going to let that rest for 1 hour. Now if your beef shin is still showing signs of some resistance, wrap it back up, pop it back in the Weber and check it in 20 minutes. The internal temp of 96 degrees Celsius is just a target or a guide. From then we're going by feel. So you should always trust your probe. Leave me a comment if you do or you don't like the word moist. Smut. It's time to pull my meat. We just need to remove the flexible metal. Ooh. Now normally I would transfer the beef shank into a foil tray, but it's already in one because the bone pierced the flexible metal. Now we just slide the bone out. If this doesn't make you want barbecue, nothing will.